Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Art Corner podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Vicki Tsai.
And I'm Anoosha Syed.
And today we are going to be talking about the big old topic of fan art. Oh, yes.
Speaking of, so I'm going to start this off with something that is crazy bananas that's been happening to me over the past few days.
Okay, let's hear it.
By the time this airs, it'll probably be old news. But, okay, so what happened was that I had made some Harry Potter fan art, basically.
Okay.
And I had drawn Harry as South Asian because I'm South Asian, and Hermione as Black, which is like a popular headcanon these days. And I posted it on Tumblr, whatever. Like, people liked it, whatever. But, like, it got featured on, like, the Tumblr radar.
Ooh, wow.
Like, recently. And then it kind of blew up, but that also meant that there were a bunch of racists who found me. And they were just like, hey, Hermione can't be Black. What are you talking about? Like, just read the books. And they were, they were trying to find,
Lord.
like, really and they were some really nasty comments, which I'm not going to repeat. But, like, the basic things that they were saying was that Hermione was white in the books, and, like, actually pinpointing paragraphs, like, trying to, like, back it up with, like, fake evidence, which can easily be debunked because, like, the one thing that people kept, like, showing me was that, like, there's this line in one of the books where it says, Hermione's white face stuck out from behind the tree, and, like, they were like, there you go, she's white. But, like, that's not what that means. It means that, like, she's white-faced because she's in shock. That's a common phrase. Like, okay.
Yeah, I think if you've read any sort of literature, one could surmise that that's not, like, exactly implying the race or the ethnicity of the person.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, I posted that whole Tumblr nonsense onto Twitter, and then that blew up, and then I eventually had to mute it just because, like, people kept coming up with, like, the same arguments of, like, oh, Hermione can't be Black, she's white, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I don't care. Because I said so. And, like, it was just a hot mess. But it did lead to some good things where, like, one, our queen, J.K. Rowling, retweeted the whole thing.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And right after I record this, I'm doing an interview with the BBC, which is crazy bananas.
Oh my goodness. Wow, yeah, that super blew up.
But anyway, the reason that I bring this up is that fan art has good points and bad points. And that's kind of what we're talking about today. So, like, it's
that was a wild ride from start to it, and it hasn't even finished yet.
I thought it was kind of relevant, but, like, what do you feel about fan art, Vicki?
I personally feel that fan art is totally cool.
Oh, yeah.
And, the reason that I say that is because it really is just ultimately a way for people to show their appreciation for something that they enjoy. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. However, I do think that there is some sort of stigma attached to fan art, because there seems to exist this pressure that if you draw fan art, then somehow you are not a quote-unquote real artist. And I don't really know where this idea started from, but I don't think that it's particularly helpful in the long run.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
it sucks that it's still such, like, this deeply rooted kind of idea within the artist community. Like, I've seen, like, artists call each other out before. Like, I've had friends call me out for drawing fan art, and it's like, whoa, like, what is going on? Like, what's so inherently bad about this? But I think that the idea is that, like, in order for somebody to be an artist, somehow you need to come up with all of your ideas originally from your mind only.
Which isn't fair because, like, you see a lot of fan art which has a lot of creativity and thought put into it where, like...
Oh, yeah.
It really is... It does take a lot of work to, like, reinterpret a character in a certain way, and, like, you still need to, like, think about composition and color and, like, style and all of that. So it's still... You're still making art. It's not like it's fake art, quote unquote. But yeah, I think it's just a lot of old style thinking of that, like it's still equating it to like, I don't know, like kid stuff maybe, like they're like, oh, okay, like I'm a kid, like I'm tracing my like Disney princess drawings, and it just kind of stems from that, I think. I don't know.
You know what? That's interesting. And I think the phrase fake art is so funny because, like, honestly, in the grand scheme of things, all art is sort of meaningless, right? It's like, I mean, like, to be completely honest, like, we don't have to make drawings in order to, you know, further our survival or anything. Yeah. But it's like, we just do it because we enjoy it and we like expressing our ideas. And I think it's really interesting that you bring up that point of how it's almost equated with like kid artwork, like you said, tracing Disney princesses or drawing like your favorite superheroes or something like that. But ultimately, that's not really what the majority of fan art is. And there have been many like spin-off shows or music videos or, you know, books even that can essentially be equated with the term fan art, you know?
Oh, yeah,
it's like it draws direct inspiration from an existing source of entertainment. Yeah. And from that, you can create something like entirely new and like substantial on its own. And I kind of hesitate to use this example, but I want to use it just because it's so popular. But, you know, think about the 50 Shades of Grey series. Isn't that like a inspiration from Twilight or something like that? Exactly.
It was originally Twilight fan fiction, and like she just basically like changed the names around and stuff, and like remade it into 50 Shades of Grey.
Oh my God. And it's like, whether or not you want to say that work is good or bad, you know, it's entirely subjective. It's up to you. But at the end of the day, 50 Shades of Grey stands as its own thing. You know, people don't denounce it like on the sole grounds that it's like, oh, well, you know, it's basically just like fan art or something like that. It's like, no, it is technically like its own franchise, and it has its own characters and stories and its own world that it exists in. From, you know, just because something draws inspiration from something else doesn't devalue it.
Right. I mean, you could also argue that Stranger Things is fan art of the 80s and like B horror movies and all of that.
Yeah. Okay, I haven't seen Stranger Things yet, and
girl, where have you been living for the past year?
No, I know about it, but I am legitimately scared of watching it. I don't think I can do it.
You're such a baby.
I am, and I'm okay with being a baby. I got my little. Really? Okay, you say that, but you say that.
Yeah.
Let's leave it there because
all right.
Yeah. But no, you're totally right. How Stranger Things is largely, you know, so much of what it is just like based on things from that decade.
Because fan art at its core is just like an expression of like, okay, I love this piece of media so much. I just want to pour myself and my love into this drawing that I made, or this video that I made, or this movie that I made. And it's actually amazing, the power of fan art as well, because like as consumers, we are also like the driving force behind like any and all the movies or whatever TV shows that are being made. And so if like you see a lot of people who are making fan art of a certain thing, it just proves that like, oh, okay, they really love this piece of media so much. So like when people make fan fiction, fan art, they are the driving force behind like, okay, these fans love this thing so much, let's continue making this, let's remake this thing, let's make this into a sequel or something. And yeah, I don't know where I was going with this, but I just love fans a lot.
Well, no, yeah, I think you bring up a really good point, actually, because I think that even like through fan art, we can explore new ideas and new iterations of something that has been really long-standing. Like, for example, the Harry Potter example that you told us about at the beginning of the episode, where it's like, yeah, people have this existing idea of what the characters look like in their head. However, through fan art, we can introduce new iterations
Exactly.
and new meanings into that universe. And I think that's something that's very meaningful because you take something that's incredibly popular, right? Every kid, every person knows what Harry Potter is. But if you kind of like turn that on its side and you see it from a new perspective, and in your case, changing the races and the ethnicities of the characters,
Yeah.
it's like you are bringing your own experience into that, right? Because you are now introducing things that are of importance to you as an artist and the background that you come from into that. And I think that reflects, on larger society and what we are finding important,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
as a collective, and that's very telling and very cool ultimately, because like that in a way is kind of like history in the making, right? Like as a collective, like our societal mind is like shifting from one view of what is, good or like what is acceptable to something else entirely new. And that's extremely important, if you look at it from that perspective.
And going from the scene's perspective, I'm not the only one who's doing this. Like, you see a lot of fan artists who are taking an existing popular character and like maybe changing them into female or changing them into a different race, just because like so much of the media we consume is largely white male.
Say it. Spill that tea.
Yeah. Well, okay. So like one example would be, I don't know if you saw what is it called? The Iron Fist.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So Marvel series, they have like the Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and then like the fourth member of that superhero team is Luke Cage, who is this rich white boy who goes and becomes like the master of, I believe, kung fu. And like a lot of people were arguing that, why couldn't he have been Asian? Why make it like, what's the purpose of like making him into a white guy who becomes like the absolute master of like a different culture's martial arts, And so I think it was Jen Bartel who started it, but like she drew Danny Rand as like Danielle Rand, as like she changed him into like a female Asian character, and like everyone was like, yo, this is awesome, and like everyone was like redrawing it as well. And I think like that kind of artwork and that kind of like awareness can bring about characters like Miss Marvel, who is a teenage Pakistani superhero, or like the new Iron Man. She's also a girl, right?
Yeah.
Like these like baby steps of just like making fan art for yourself is like kind of like showing people that like, yo, okay, we want more of this kind of stuff, and so like people create more of that kind of stuff, and so now we are seeing more because of like fan artists like us. I feel like we're starting to see more diversity in media.
I think that's a really good point that you bring up, and in that same vein, it's also a way for us to, for us as artists to explore and to understand things that are important to us, because like art is so largely the person that you are and the experiences and the life that you've led, like every single piece of artwork that you make has a little bit of that, even if you're not explicitly trying to, make that known. it just kind of finds its way in there. So like, I know that when I make artwork that is exploring like the ideas of diversity, right, that is a way for me to almost like reflect on my own childhood and sort of create the things that I know I would have wanted to see. Not that I knew I would have, but what I did want to see when I was growing up. Because so often, I mean, like, I feel like media is definitely like starting to catch up a little bit in terms of diversity, but I feel like when we were growing up, definitely, of course, never fast enough, right? These social change is always painstakingly slow. But like when we were younger, I feel like there were very few characters that we saw that represented us in mainstream media, right? And so for us now in our early 20s to be making this artwork that, you know, reflects what we had wanted to see, that's like a way for us to like process the things that we value and the things that we find important, not only for ourselves, but also for our larger artist community and for society as a whole. You know, like we're trying to represent the direction that we want to see things moving in. And even if it's something as small, right, as a piece of artwork, it can still have an incredible impact on so many different people, right? Because like once you introduce this idea, once you introduce like the possibility of something existing, and other people see that and they like connect with it and recognize it, then that can become something so powerful, which it has. You know, it's shown itself to be this incredible like instigator of like change and ideas.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I can count the number of South Asian characters that I've seen in media on like one hand, especially
Seriously.
like good portrayals. And so now like I feel like it's my duty to like kind of make it more common, to like make diversity more like a standing point in my artwork, just because like I never saw myself in any of the media that I took in when I was growing up. So like I want to, if I can make artwork that someone out there can connect to and be like, hey, that looks like me, that could be me, like I think that I'm doing my job, I guess.
No, certainly. And I think that in doing so, you can very possibly indirectly inspire other young people to draw the things, you know, that they want to see in their own reality as well. And I think ultimately that is something that is incredibly valuable for, you know, for like the reason why you make art, and for people who get to enjoy your artwork, you know? That's something that's like you can't exchange that for anything else in the world, right? Like ultimately that experience is incredibly priceless. And you know, you can think about it like that, and in that kind of way, fan art is like unarguably useful and important. And I think that like going back on the idea of originality, right? And how people feel pressured to create things that are original, whatever that means, that's kind of like ultimately a very fruitless pursuit, in my opinion, because nothing is created within a vacuum. You're not like born into this world and somehow you are able to shut off like every sort of outside source that has an effect on you. That doesn't happen. That's not possible. Like you're in this world and you are affected by the things that are present in this world, and as well as like the power structures and the, you know, the things that society as a whole finds important. Like those things affect you. And so like to think that originality exists is just like what are you trying to do? Like what exactly are you trying to pursue at the end of the day? Because like creating things in a vacuum just like it doesn't get you anywhere. It is impossible. Thank you. I think that's the word that I was searching for. It is impossible. And so like why do we put this sort of like impossible pressure on ourselves to create something out of nothing?
Yeah,
like,
there's
that sounds
absolutely
ridiculous.
No original thought anymore. Like everything.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Just as long as you don't like straight out steal another artist's work. Just like influence is inevitable, and you are all like everything you make is partly influenced by like another artist that you like, or like something that you saw, or like, you know, something or other. But like, yeah, basically the point is there's no original art, so suck it.
Seriously. And like if you really want to, you know, get historical about like this argument, it's like, you know, the artists that you revere, have been doing fan art.
Yeah.
They've been doing it.
Your bro,
Like,
Leonardo da Vinci, he made fan art.
oh, he made hella fan art.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
The Bible, it's like what was it? What's the thing on the top of the ceiling?
The Sistine Chapel?
Yeah, that's fan
okay.
art. I didn't take art history. I don't know what I'm talking about.
You know, we have the power of Google. I'm just gonna look that up real quick. Let's see who did this. Da Vinci. No.
Michelangelo?
I thought we were artists, Anoosha. Why don't we know this?
I'm a fake. I'm a fraud.
Oh, no, you were right. It's Michelangelo who painted the chapel's ceiling. Okay, no, we're not frauds.
No.
We know this.
We're half right.
We're totally real artists who make real art.
I'm pretty sure Leonardo da Vinci made some fan art too.
Oh, I don't doubt it in the slightest.
For sure.
Because, like, the art was such a big part of commissioning art. Wait, what? The art? Oh, my God. I need to restart that sentence. The church was such a big part in commissioning artists back then, right? And providing them with jobs, basically, in order to proliferate the church's message. And so it's like, hey, people were basically making fan art for a living.
I mean, like, everyone loves to draw their favorite characters, but, like, if you don't got your, I don't know, your comic books and your TV shows back in, like, the 1400s, what are you gonna do? I guess I'm gonna draw Adam and Eve, just, like, chilling. I don't know.
Yeah, you know, just draw your favorite characters from the Bible.
Yeah, that's good enough.
Yeah, Bible fan art. That's always good and fun. That's where it's at. That's where the real money's at. Bible fan art. Yeah, we gotta hop back onto that.
Do you think they had, like, medieval Comic Cons where they just, like, you know?
Oh my God. Honestly, I hope they did. Maybe it got, like, destroyed in the archives of, like, history, but God, I would like to think that they did.
Bible Artist Alley.
Oh my God, Bible cosplay?
Yes.
Oh God.
Oh my God.
Like competitions, like who dressed up as Judas the best, honestly.
Oh my God. That's really
Is this like a thing, like in the modern world? I wonder.
I'm not gonna Google it though.
Let's not go down that road. Okay.
Okay, heading back to fan art.
Yes.
Okay. So, now we've discussed that, like, fan art is good. We should do fan art. But on the flip side, we've got the catch-22 going on where, like, on one hand, like, okay, you should be drawing fan art because it's good for you, but also you have to draw fan art because apparently that's the only thing social media cares about.
Okay. No, that's good. I've definitely faced something like this, and you have as well, right? Like, it's this whole idea that, like, oh, the only way I'm going to get anybody to pay attention to me is if I draw fan art.
It's hey guys, you ever have that thing where, like, you post a photo on Instagram, you make, like, this original art that you spend, like, 14 hours on, and it gets, like, 5 notes, but then you draw, like, I don't know, like, Naruto, and he's, like hang gliding or something, and it gets, like, 10,000 notes? Am I right, ladies?
The ladies are here, and they're saying you are right. You know, I think that a lot of artists have had this very similar experience, and I think because so many of us know this, like, very innately, we just kind of, like, further the need to draw fan art almost. And, you know, I don't necessarily know whether it's good or bad, like, you know, us as a society that we value fan art more than original artwork. But I also think that it has to do with, like, the spheres of, you know, like, artwork that you exist within, right? Because, like, let's be honest here, like, we're both very heavily focused on, like, comics and, like, cartoons and what else? Just, like, animation in general, right? Like that's mainly the sphere that we exist in. And so I think naturally fan art is going to be a very big part of what we do. And it's kind of unavoidable in a way, and I also don't necessarily think it's a good or bad thing. It's just kind of like it comes with the territory. But if we were to be in a different kind of sphere, say like solely making things for galleries or, you know, like museum exhibitions, maybe that would have less of a focus on fan art and more of a encouragement of originality and, you know, like curating your own vision, right? Like there's a little bit more importance on that. So I do think that the environment that we are in sort of contributes to sure. the creation of fan art, right? Right?
Yeah. I think so. But then that also counters into like, again, that like fan art is seen as less respectable, and like that comic and animation artists are like lower tier just because like we're not making like the fancy pants original art, right?
Fancy pants.
We're not like those gallery artists making I don't know.
We're the discount pants that you find at
exactly.
the on sale section.
But we're the really nice discount pants. So like you have to like look through all of like the other stuff, and you find like, oh, these are kind of ugly, but like in a nice way.
I have never thought about what we do in this like form of an analogy, but it's really like speaking to me for some reason. Like I definitely do. Oh, that's so interesting that you bring that up, because I don't really perceive like the artwork that I make as quote unquote fine art, if you will, you know, stuff that hangs in like the LACMA or whatever, right? Or stuff that's in like art history textbooks. But, and like that perception, you know, like of myself and like of my artwork, it does in a way make me feel like not as good or like not as worthy of what's the word, not recognition, but of like accolades, right? Of like rewards and like plaques. Like that's what I think of, like
like just thinking about it, it just feels like there's less value to my work compared to like this like fine art or like even editorial illustration, which like you'd see in like the New York Times or whatever. Like it shouldn't be the case, but like I'm just automatically used to making that connection that like more realistic, more like fine art is gonna cost more than like the stuff that I make, even though like we would probably have had the same education, we probably put in the same amount of work, maybe even I've put in more work, but like automatically that is given more value, it's gonna cost more.
Oh my god, this is such an interesting topic. Like I'm thinking of all these new ideas, because like in a way, like if I were to like choose one word, like I perceive our work as being like almost like very commercial in a sense. And like when I use the word commercial, I almost feel like it's very like one commonplace. It's very accessible. And
Vicki, how many times have you gotten like quote unquote regular people asking you for commissions?
Well, what do you mean by regular people?
As in just like not clients, but like people who are like, oh, I want to get something done of just like to use as my profile picture, or like I want to get something done for my friend's birthday. Just like commonplace.
A lot of those actually.
Right, yeah. And you probably won't see that people doing the same thing to like quote unquote higher class artists, because like our work is more accessible.
That's very interesing.
And again,
I wonder,
seen
though,
as like less valued because it's going to be cheaper.
Right. Oh, because it's more accessible, it's possible that it's cheaper, right? That whole idea. I also hesitate using the word cheaper. I mean in terms of like strictly monetary value, not in terms of like perceived value or anything like that. Right. But I definitely have gotten many of those like kind of clients, right, and requests. But at the same time, I don't want to make any assumptions about more like fine art or editorial artists. in terms of like the types of requests that they receive.
Yeah, that's true. I have no idea
Right.
what happens with them.
Exactly. Like, I don't want to make that assumption, but purely if I were to venture a guess, right? You know, and this could be me being completely ignorant, but like I would guess that they don't have to deal with that as much because people perceive their art as being more expensive, then they're like, oh, that's not really within my budget.
Right.
Yeah. Huh. Oh man, I'm like reevaluating my like career as an artist and like my self-perception. This is a really interesting conversation though. It's like I haven't really thought about this stuff before, to be completely honest.
Yeah, I had no idea we'd be touching on like all of this deep stuff, just talking about fan art.
Oh, the places you'll go with fan art. This is what drawing fan art makes you do, kids. It makes you think of things like these. Makes you become very deeply introspective.
Okay,
but
so
anyways, that's beside the point.
Okay, going back onto social media, you probably feel pressured to draw fan art, as opposed to original art. Would you say?
Yeah, I would say that like that pressure definitely existed much more strongly, especially when I was first starting out on social media. That like the idea in my head was purely like, if I don't draw fan art, nobody is going to see my work. Like 100%. Like I legitimately thought that. Like what would you say? Like what are your thoughts about it?
I would say that it's sad but very true. In most cases, people are unfortunately not going to look at your work just because I mean, like, your original work is amazing and you should keep doing it, but like the sad case is that most people who are like flipping through Instagram, Twitter, whatever, they're immediately going to see, oh, I know this character, I love this character, I'm going to like this picture. And they're going to be more attracted to that kind of stuff. So unfortunately, there is that like kind of there's like a little bit of pressure to be drawing fan art just because it's like, okay, people aren't looking at my normal work, I guess I'm gonna have to draw Sailor Moon or whatever, which like for me this is what I kind of had to do. Like no one was looking at my work until I started drawing Disney princesses, and then like then everyone was like, oh my gosh, I'm looking at the princesses, but I guess I'm also staying for the other stuff you make. And it's really sad that like I had to do that, and I wish people didn't have to.
Yeah, like I you know, like at the beginning we've been talking about how fan art is very beneficial, right? And like how you should draw fan art and that there's nothing wrong with drawing fan art. But at the same time, I do feel like it is a vicious circle of its own, because it's like we have this belief that if you don't do X, then you can't get Y. And so, like, collectively, we're like, oh, well, then you have to draw X. Right. And, like, that just sort of, like, furthers this idea, right? Like, I don't think that as a whole we're necessarily doing anything to sort of, like, counteract that or to sort of, like, even the playing field, if you will.
Yeah.
I think that because we feel pressured to draw fan art, then naturally we're just gonna sort of like open the floodgates of fan art, right? And that original artwork is kind of like on a lower tier or of a lower priority in general.
In terms of social media.
So, in terms of social media. Specifically, I mean, like, I so much of my artwork experience is through social media, so like I have a tendency to think that is how it is for the wider like art community, but I don't think that's necessarily true or anything like that. But yeah, definitely in terms of social media, like that pressure is very present.
Vicki, you haven't done any like Artist Alley stuff yet, have you?
I did one thing at Anime Expo like a few years, but I was tabling with like two other people.
Okay, but then like the point that I'm just bringing up is that like if you're ever tabling, that's don't my original stuff never ever sells. Though like I don't know what I expected. Like it is like a fan convention. Like people are
Right,
there for
right.
like the fan stuff, but like it's just like the same thing that like you see on social media. People prefer seeing their favorite characters as it's more valued than like seeing your original stuff. Which yeah.
Yeah. I think that's funny because I think if you were to ask any artist,
Mm-hmm.
they would very much like champion original artwork,
Yeah.
right? They'd be like, yeah, original art is important, you know,
Mm-hmm.
for like the development and growth of an artist, but also to just like have that existing, you know, within the world.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes down to it, we give our money to fan art.
Yeah.
And in our society,
Mm-hmm.
money talks, baby.
Yeah.
It talks. And so, like, what is, you know, what are artists supposed to do? Like, we
Mm-hmm.
need to make a living as well.
Yeah.
And if you are giving your opinion to us, you know, monetarily,
Mm-hmm.
that speaks very loudly.
Yeah. And since so much of finding clients these days is done over social media,
Mm-hmm.
you clients will find you if like your work is being spread out. If you know, like,
Yeah.
and your work will spread out more easily if you have like that fan art thing going on. So then there's also
It's
that
true.
element that like if you want to get jobs and if you want people to find you, then you kind of need to have that exposure. And if you want to have that exposure, then fan art definitely helps. And even though like
Yeah.
the clients aren't going to necessarily be looking at your fan art,
Mm-hmm.
it's you kind of need that to get your exposure going along. Because like it's really sad that like I see so many artists who I really really admire and love on social media
Mm-hmm.
who have like 200 followers, and even though like followers and it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't like matter
Mm-hmm.
how many followers you have, it's not a value puts any there's no equivalent to like your value. But it is
Of course
sad
not, yeah.
that I wish more people were seeing their work, because like they're just so good, and then like more people seeing their work means like more clients seeing their work, meaning more job and more money for
Mm-hmm.
them, and it's just really sad.
Yeah, I think that's very true, that in order to get sort of like your foot in the door, right, with a number of clients, is that you have to have some sort of like social media presence.
Yeah.
And what, like, it's been proven like one of the easiest ways to do that is to draw fan art.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many things that I don't want to like put a blanket statement on, because like I don't really think that that's true necessarily, but like it is, there is like a grain of truth with like drawing fan art can definitely help you gain some popularity.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, especially when there's money involved,
Yeah.
and there's exposure involved, like those are really important things to like an artist's livelihood.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's only natural that you will sort of like find like one of the best ways in order to gain that for yourself.
Yeah, as an artist, you gotta hustle any way you can. So like, draw fan art if it makes you happy. Draw fan art if you feel like it will help. Like if it's getting you work, but like don't at the same time don't draw it because you feel like you need to.
Yeah, I think it becomes very easy to like feel lost.
Mm-hmm.
when you kind of go down that road.
Yeah.
Because then it's just sort of like, why am I creating again?
Yeah. How does drawing fan art make you feel?
I would definitely say it's more positive than negative
Mm-hmm.
overall.
Okay.
Yeah, most of the time when I'm drawing fan art, it's just like, I just want to show my appreciation for something that I really love.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it comes down to. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, one would be like the expressing the like, I love this stuff so much, but also for me, fan art is a way of just cooling down. Like original art like takes a lot out of me, especially because like I feel like as a freelancer you're just working constantly, you don't have like a lot of time for personal work, but like when you do, I just want to draw to relax and like not really think about it too much. So like sometimes I'll just draw one of the things that I really love. I don't need to think about, oh, I have to create a whole new character from scratch. I can just like kind of go through the motions, I guess. Not to say that fan art is easy, but like just like it's
You
a
already
bit
have
more
a
relaxed.
starting point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely find some truth in that as well, where it's like sometimes you don't know what to draw, and so you're like, oh, well, I can draw this character that already exists and has like this whole, like idea and story to them. And so that does take out a lot of the guesswork, and it's either to just like go from there,
Yeah.
Yeah, like fan art is not only a way for you to like express your love for something, but also, at the end of the day, to just sort of like relax a little bit. It's like I've been working so hard doing like all of these other things. I don't really have to want to put in all this mental energy to come up with something entirely new. So, yeah.
Sometimes after a long day of work, you just want to kick back, relax, and draw a goofy movie. I don't know.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like that, Just gotta draw a little bit of Goofy and Max. Yeah, exactly.
What's the girl's name?
Roxanne?
Yeah. I have to watch that movie again.
Oh my god, I think the first one is on Netflix right now.
Oh, really?
And I tried rewatching it like a couple weeks ago, and I was like, this is not the one with Roxanne in it, is it? And it was just not as good because of that.
The one when they're at college?
Yeah, the
love
X
that
Games.
one. I love it.
Oh my god, really?
It's as 90s as you can get. It's really great.
It's true. Oh my god, the fashions.
So
gotta love those.
Okay. What else do we need to touch on? Okay. A lot of people ask, is fan art in your portfolio okay? I think it depends. A lot of clients are kind of put off against fan art just because, again, that whole stigma thing. But as long as...
Oh, really?
Yeah. But as long as, like, the fan art that you're creating, it's not like a direct... Not to say, like, it's a tracing or whatever, but, like, if you really put your own style and, like, really interpret it in a different way, then it's totally okay. Because then it's, like... Because then it's more of your work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then that's totally fine if you use it. But I would say to limit it, like make it the ratio like 3 to 15, I would say.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I think you definitely have more experience in this sort of realm in terms of like what clients are okay with seeing and not okay with seeing in portfolios.
Right. But that isn't to say... Oh, actually, sorry, you go first.
I was about to ask you a question. Like, have you ever had a client say, like, you shouldn't have fan art in your portfolio?
That's what my teacher said.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they're wrong. I haven't had I haven't had clients straight up say, I don't like seeing this in here. What I've done is just like make a separate section in my portfolio that says this is fan art. This is stuff that I've made. It's different from like the actual style, but it's still like other people's characters. Look at it if you want. I don't care.
Right.
But that isn't to say that like clients don't like fan art and they won't be turned off by seeing fan art, because I have had clients come to me specifically after seeing fan art I've done. Like a couple of years back, I did like I made Disney,
what is it?
Yeah, I made like this Disney princesses as like modern girls, whatever. I was just doing it like it was in my last year of college, and I was just doing it as a way to kick back after like exams, basically. I don't need to think about it. I'm just gonna draw cute girls because I like cute girls and I like drawing Disney princesses. And it blew up. And so I still have clients who are like, oh, I saw your Disney princess thing on blah 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 blah. can I hire you for something? So like
Right, right.
sometimes that can be a good thing. That like people see your fan art and they're like, oh, we want to hire you. Because then you also have like people who these great circumstances where like, oh, this person really loves this TV show and they're drawing fan art of it, and then that someone who works on a TV show is like, hey, we want to hire you, can you come on our show? Like that happens. Vicki, you have a pretty cool example.
Oh, yeah. I was about to say that when I had first started playing Overwatch,
Yes.
I was really like immediately taken by the characters, and so naturally I just felt this urge to like draw fan art, and I posted it on Twitter, and it was through Twitter that Blizzard had found my fan art, and they were like, "Hey, do you want to do some work for us for a winter event?"
Crazy bananas.
I was like in heaven, basically. I had like ascended. I was like, are you actually joking with me? But no, like I was able to get that opportunity, and it was just like so awesome. And since then I've been able to work with them 2 other times. And all of that just like came through fan art, you know? And I think that if I hadn't done that, you know, obviously either would have taken them much longer to find me, or they may have never found me at all. So in that respect, you know, like having fan art in your portfolio can be very, very useful. But I think like the question that we're trying to address here is like a physical portfolio or some sort of like online portfolio, right? I think like a good rule of thumb is that you don't want everything in there to just be fan art. Right. I think it's good to have a balance, right, of original work and some fan work as well.
And I would say a majority of original work. Just so like clients can see that you can have like the capacity to create characters and original ideas, I guess. I think that would be a good rule of thumb.
Yeah. I think that's good to follow, and also just like in general, it doesn't hurt to have like some fan art in there.
Though like, if you are applying for like animation or video game or comic jobs like specifically, then don't put fan art in your portfolio, because the whole point is that they want to see you make new characters.
I see. Yeah, and you know, at the end of the day, you have to tailor your portfolio to whichever client that you're presenting it to. That I think that ultimately is the best piece of advice that, you know, that we can give. It's just like, see what your client is looking for, and then, you know, add or subtract some things based on that. Yeah.
Thank you for listening to The Art Corner. You can follow us on Twitter at The Art Corner Pod, or send us any questions or comments at theartcornerpodcast@gmail.com.
Our theme music was made by the amazing Louis Zong, and you can follow him at EverydayLouis on Twitter. You can also follow Anoosha on Twitter at Foxville_art, and follow Vicki at Vicki Tsai. Thanks again, and see you next time.